hurricane zone. He was consumed by his feud with Kim Jong-un and even pointed to the briefcase known as the nuclear football, threatening to use it. I'm Wolf Blitzer. You're in the Situation Room.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Breaking news, while Democrats are insisting on seeing the complete Mueller report, a source now says the primary obstacle is the presence of grand jury information, adding Congress is entitled to view it. That comes as an all-out fight rages over the Mueller report. President Trump saying House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff should be forced to resign from Congress. On his way to a campaign rally, the president again insisting that Mueller found no obstruction and no collusion, taking their cue from the president. Intelligence Committee members, the Republicans, all of them, they're calling on Schiff to step down as chairman, but Schiff is standing firm, calling the Trump team's behavior immoral, unethical, and unpatriotic. Speaker Nancy Pelosi says Congress must see the full report, calling Attorney General Bill Barr's decision to summarize it, and I'm quoting her now, arrogant and condescending. I'll speak with Congressman Jerry Connolly of the Oversight Committee and our correspondents and analysts. They will have full coverage of the day's top stories. Let's begin with the breaking news. Our senior congressional correspondent, Manu Raju, is up on Capitol Hill. Manu, you're getting a key explanation for what's holding up the release of the Mueller report.
Yeah, a Democratic staffer with knowledge of a call between Jerry Nadler and Bill Barr that occurred on Wednesday night says that one reason why that the Congress and the public may not get the full report from Bob Mueller is the presence of grand jury information that's in the report. Now, according to this source, Nadler offered to Bill Barr the prospect of going together to court to get a court order in order to release this grand jury information. Now, Barr, apparently, according to this source, was open to the idea, but that's not as far as Nadler wanted to go. He got a commitment. The Democrats believe they are entitled to this information. They say that there's precedent on their side, like in the case involving the Watergate scandal, grand jury information coming to Congress. They believe they're on firm legal ground, and they say that they could even go to the courts themselves to demand this grand jury information. Now, also on this call, the Democrats came away with the information from Barr that he does not plan to go to the White House and give the White House the opportunity to review it first. But there's still a lot of questions among Democrats about how those executive privilege questions will be answered and whether there'll be any effort whatsoever by the administration to assert executive privilege. And one other aspect, too, well, from this call, there's been a lot of questions about why Bob Mueller did not make the decision about whether to charge the president with obstruction of justice, instead kicking it to the top two Justice Department political appointees to make that decision, Rod Rosenstein and Bill Barr. According to the source, I had asked whether or not Nadler pressed Barr about this very question, why Mueller didn't charge the president with obstruction. The source said he did not answer that question. So one of the major unanswered questions still remaining about this 4-page summary and why the special counsel did not move forward on an obstruction question.
Important information, Manu. Meanwhile, Republicans on the House Intelligence Committee are echoing the president's call for the chairman, Adam Schiff, to resign. But Schiff is standing firm, making for a rather dramatic, almost unprecedented exchange today. We heard during a hearing of the Intelligence Committee. Tell us about that.
A lot of fireworks at that House Intelligence Committee hearing, and a committee that's been rife with partisan conflict stemming from the last Congress today, after Republicans had demanded Schiff to resign from his chairmanship, and after the president called Schiff a disgrace because of Schiff's claims of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia in the aftermath of Bill Barr's letter that quoted the Mueller report, saying that they did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinate with the Russian government. Adam Schiff made very clear that he was not going to take the Republican punches lying down.
Your willingness to continue to promote a demonstrably false narrative is alarming. The findings of the special counsel conclusively refute your past and present assertions and have exposed you as having abused your position to knowingly promote false information, having damaged the integrity of this committee and undermined the faith in the United States government and its institutions. We have no faith in your ability to discharge your duties in a manner consistent with your constitutional responsibility and urge your immediate resignation as chairman of the committee.
My colleagues may think it's okay that the Russians offered dirt on the Democratic candidate for president as part of what was described as the Russian government's effort to help the Trump campaign. You might think that's okay, but I don't think it's okay. I think it's immoral. I think it's unethical. I think it's unpatriotic. And yes, I think it's corrupt and evidence of collusion. And the day we do think that's okay is the day we will look back and say that is the day America lost its way. Your opening statement. I will not yield. Mr. Ambassador, you
gentlemen, yield because you just made some things about all of us that I think we all should get the opportunity to respond to. If you're going to say we think, you ought to allow us to speak of what we think.
You can use your 5 minutes to speak. You attacked me in your opening statement, and
I have not had an opportunity to respond at all, especially to your statements of what we think, because no one over here thinks that.
And Wolf, also today, Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law and senior advisor, unexpectedly appeared at the Senate Intelligence Committee as part of their Russia investigation. So at least one investigation is still moving forward at the moment on a bipartisan basis.
You know, seeing that exchange, Manu, reminded me of what the House, what Mueller concluded, what the U.S. intelligence community concluded, that one of the Russians' objectives in interfering in the U.S. elections was to sow political dissent here in the United States. If that was one of their objectives, as they all concluded was the case, clearly they have done exactly that by raising this issue. Manu Raju up on Capitol Hill, thanks very much. President Trump is on his way to a campaign rally where he may try to fan the flames over the Mueller report. He's got a good start just now as he left the White House. Abby Phillip is on the scene for us over at the White House. So, Abby, update our viewers.
Well, Wolf, the president just left here a few minutes ago for Michigan for the first campaign rally since the Mueller report was summarized in that Barr letter. And the president for days has been doing a 1-2 step of both taking a victory lap over what he calls a vindication, but also going on the offense. This rally tonight could be one of those opportunities for President Trump to really ramp up his supporters. And he gave us a little preview of what he might say tonight on the South Lawn.
Well, look, I've been going through that for almost 2 years, but it's really much more than that, because if you look back, you could probably look at the insurance policy area in terms of timing. It's a disgrace what happened. This was a terrible thing that was put onto our country. Nobody's seen anything like this, probably never happened before. Beautiful conclusion. I haven't seen the report. Beautiful conclusion. And there was no collusion at all. There never was. Everybody knew it. I wish it could have gone in 1 week instead of taking almost 2 years. But the result was great. No obstruction, no collusion, no anything.
And I need to note that the president is also traveling with two of his outside advisors, David Bossie and Corey Lewandowski. But Bossie has been one of the voices urging the president to go after the people who have been investigating him over the last 2 years. So he's clearly surrounding himself with people who are urging him to go on the offense. And at the same time, while the president is dealing with this Mueller fallout, he's also trying to change the subject to health care. This week, the administration announced that they are seeking to invalidate the entire Affordable Care Act law. But sources tell us the White House has no plan. The president says now that they are in no hurry. Listen.
So Obamacare has been an absolute disaster. I have asked John Barrasso, Senator, Bill Cassidy, who's a terrific health care person, Rick Scott, and others to take a look, form a really great plan. We're winning the lawsuit to terminate Obamacare in Texas. We are winning the Texas lawsuit. And right now we're on the winning side. Hopefully we'll win at the appellate division and go to the Supreme Court to terminate Obamacare. The cost of Obamacare to people is far too much. The deductibility is ridiculous. It averages more than $7,000, meaning it's unusable. So Obamacare has been a disaster. We will take care of pre-existing conditions better than they're taken care of now.
So the president is now suggesting that there is a small committee of Republicans on Capitol Hill tasked with coming up with a new health care bill. As of this moment, though, we know that there is no plan that the White House has at the moment. And while Republicans undoubtedly do not like Obamacare, many of them on Capitol Hill are nervous about what happens if the Affordable Care Act gets thrown out and there is nothing there to replace it. But sources are also telling us this could also be about politics for President Trump. He's trying to shore up his supporters on a major vulnerability for him, making it clear to them that he is still working on this issue, knowing full well that it's not very likely that an Affordable Care Act replacement will make it through a divided Congress anytime soon, Wolf.
Healthcare will certainly be a huge issue in the 2020 contest. Abby Phillip at the White House, thanks very much. Joining us now, Democratic Congressman Jerry Connolly of Virginia. He's a member of both the Oversight and the Foreign Affairs Committees. Congressman, thanks so much for coming in. That exchange we saw today at the House Intelligence Committee, they used to have a strong tradition of bipartisanship, nonpartisanship, Republicans and Democrats working together. That is gone.
At least for now. I think that's right.
Have you ever seen something like that in the House Intelligence Committee, where the chairman, I know they have problems with Devin Nunes. The last time he was forced to remove himself from some issues, but it's getting worse. It's pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, I think this is a pattern that has not only affected the Intelligence Committee, but frankly, the entire Congress. Increasingly, my Republican colleagues have decided that their sole function with respect to this president is to enable and justify and rationalize this behavior. And as you heard, obviously, for a lot of Democrats, Adam Schiff key among them, this is profoundly offensive given the stakes. It isn't normal, it isn't okay to be collaborating with, coordinating with Russian operatives about a presidential election. That is not normal. We don't do that. And you're going to have to explain yourself. And the fact that Mueller apparently, based on a 4-page summary, we haven't seen the 300-page report, concluded that there was no criminal conspiracy to collude does not mean there weren't plenty of contacts that are quite unusual, if not inappropriate, with Russians.
Can Adam Schiff effectively continue to be the chairman with almost half of the members, the Republicans, going out against him, saying he should resign?
I really don't think we can have a situation where the Republican minority decides who the Democratic majority chairman is going to be. We're not going to see that power having just one.
Even if it undermines the credibility and effectiveness of that committee?
Well, I mean, frankly, that's what would be the alternative? Some milquetoast person who offends nobody and pleases nobody, and the committee does nothing.
Because here's the one ramification. As someone who's covered the intelligence committees for a long time, the intelligence community, the Trump administration, at every executive branch, they always share the most sensitive national security information, classified information, with what's called the Gang of Eight. That would include the chairman and the ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee. There's going to be a reluctance right now on the part of the executive branch to share information with Adam Schiff.
I don't know that. I don't know what his relationship is with, say, the head of the CIA. I will point out to you that there's a reluctance between the intelligence community and the President of the United States in terms of at least conclusions with respect to intelligence. After all, it's not Adam Schiff who disagreed with our intelligence organizations. It was Donald Trump about whether there was Russian interference in our election. So if we're going to look at that standard, then we ought to call for non-cooperation between the intelligence community and the President of the United States.
So bottom line, as I just said, if the one of the Russian objectives was to sow political dissent, undermine democracy here in the United States by interfering in the 2016 election, as the U.S. intelligence community has concluded, as the Mueller report has concluded, according to the Bill Barr, a letter that was sent to Congress, that was mission accomplished for them.
Tragically, yes, I think that's right. I think they've gotten a lot more for whatever they invested in that operation than they even expected.
A House Democrat tells CNN that the primary obstacle right now in releasing the full Mueller report is the presence of grand jury material that normally is not made available. Is that something you're going to demand to see? And obviously, if it's redacted for classified information, national security sources and methods, you understand that. But what about grand jury information?
You know, I think here we have to weigh public interest. Normally, of course, there's a reason to protect the the testimony done in secret before a grand jury. In this case, that has to be weighed against the right of the public to know one of the most important special prosecutor reports ever filed about a president of the United States. Apparently, it's 300 pages. We've only got a 4-page summary. So I think the latter trumps the former, and we've got to err on the side of release, even if it compromises grand jury testimony.
Your committee, the Oversight Committee, has now requested 10 years of statements from President Trump's accounting firm following the accusations from his former lawyer, Michael Cohen, that Donald Trump, in his words, routinely misled lenders and insurance companies. The Washington Post released a report today detailing what they call several instances where the president reportedly, allegedly inflated his net worth, inflating other home lots for sale at a golf club, adding 10 stories to Trump Tower, exaggerating the size of a Virginia vineyard, exaggerating the value of a Westchester County estate, hiding buildings with loan debt. In your opinion, does that amount to outright fraud?
I think it depends on the nature of the document. So if you're producing a brochure that you make available at some kind of a fair or festival or promotion setting, that in and of itself I don't think would constitute fraud. It's deceptive marketing, but it may not rise to the level of crime. On the other hand, if you are presenting that as documentation to justify a loan from a financial institution and you knowingly falsify the information you're providing to inflate the value in order to qualify for more money for a loan, that is called fraud.
Yeah. That one document said the Trump Tower in New York was 68 stories. It's 58 stories. So that's an issue that people are looking at right now.
Well, we do know size matters to this president.
Congressman Jerry Connolly, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Wolf.
We're watching other news that's unfolding right now, including some breaking news. Lawyers for the actor Jussie Smollett are demanding an apology after Chicago's Mayor Rahm Emanuel says he should reimburse the city for the cost of the investigation. And President Trump says the Justice Department here in Washington should step right in, calling the Smollett case, and I'm quoting the president now, an absolute embarrassment to the country.
The Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer, brought to you.
Now, YouTube viewers, listen to me very, very, very closely. The reason I'm recording this video is to show you how soon Christians could leave this earth when Jesus comes. Now, I am going to continue recording the news for you, but while they're on a commercial, there is one important thing you need to hear from the Bible about the time when us Christians will leave this earth. Because it could be today, it could be tomorrow, it could be tonight, it could be tomorrow night, it could be any time now. Now just listen to this. It'll take me just a moment.
Matthew 24. And Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. And Jesus said unto them, See ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming, and of the end of the world? And Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars, and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, and pestilences, and earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house, neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. But pray ye, that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Then if any man shall say unto you, Lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false Christs, and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that, if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Behold, I have told you before. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, Behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chambers, believe it not. For as the lightning cometh out of the east, and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender, and putteth forth leaves, ye know that summer is nigh. So likewise ye, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass, till all these things be fulfilled. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my word shall not pass away. But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying, and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came, and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Then shall two be in the field, the one shall be taken, the other left. Two women shall be grinding at the mill, the one shall be taken, and the other left. Watch therefore, for ye know not what hour your Lord doth come. But know this, that if the good man of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched, and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Therefore be ye also ready, for in such an hour as ye think not, the Son of Man cometh. Who then is a faithful and wise servant, whom his Lord hath made ruler over his household to give them meat in due season? Blessed is that servant, whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find so doing. Verily I say unto you, that he shall make him ruler over all his goods. But, and if that evil servant shall say in his heart, My Lord delayeth his coming, and shall begin to smite his fellow servants, and to eat and drink with the drunken, the Lord of that servant shall come in a day when he looketh not for him, and in an hour that he is not aware of, and shall cut him asunder, and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Matthew 25.
Saying in part, her recusal should have applied to the entire office, not just her. Prosecutors insist there was a credible case against Smollett, but Smollett's attorneys push back and say the actor was indeed attacked and point the blame at the two brothers involved.
But if it's the Osundairo brothers, what are the chances that that's the case, that he saw somebody with light skin?
Well, you know, I mean, I think there's, obviously you can disguise that. You could put makeup on.
Yeah, actually suggesting that maybe they had whiteface. Never heard that one before. Of course, we're still talking to detectives about this case to see what new information is coming. But, Wolf, just to give you an idea of how charged this is, on Monday, the Chicago Police Union will be protesting this. They'll be out front of the courthouse. Be interesting to see how this twists and turns again.
Amazing developments unfolding in Chicago. All right, Ryan, thank you very much. Ryan Young on the scene for us. We have much more ahead on all the breaking stories this hour, including new details about what's keeping the Justice Department from sharing the full Mueller report with Congress and the country.
It's not on the agenda.
Okay. YouTube viewers, I'm sorry, but while I was showing you Matthew 24, they came back from a commercial. So during this time, if you have anything that you need to do, I advise you to pause this video and do it now, and I'll be back as quickly as I can. Thank you.
Now, with over 30,000 new smiles across our...
Okay, I'm back. Well, I can't really stop and resume recording and have it on the same video, which is what I want to do. So what I mean is, if I could pause the video and resume it during commercials without having to make more than one video, I would. But since I don't know how, I won't. But note to self: when I watch this video, do research on that and put that in my reminders. But anyway, so I'm sorry you have to sit here through the commercials. Believe me, I would fix that if I knew how. But since I don't, I can't, and for those of you who watch patiently, I'd like to thank you for that. But during the next commercial break, I will show you Daniel chapters 11 and 12, and I'll get ready for that when the news resumes. So again, during these times of waiting, I advise and encourage you, pause the video and do whatever you need to do. And I also encourage you during this time to like, share, and subscribe. And if you have your own YouTube channel and know how to edit videos so that the commercials won't be shown when you record TV for YouTube, please let me know in the comments below. But in case I don't hear anything, note to self: when I watch this video, do research on it. Now, that's all I have to say. And the reason I said note to self, do research on that, is because I'm kind of forgetful, and I wanted to make sure I was reminded of that idea when I watched this video.
And right now, you can see the crowd is already gathering in Grand Rapids, Michigan. The president will be there fairly soon. Earlier, the president and his Republican allies in Congress unleashed a ferocious attack on the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Adam Schiff. Let's ask our political and legal analyst for some serious analysis. And Sarah Murray, start with you. I want you to listen to the House Minority Leader, Kevin McCarthy.
Does America truly believe, or does Adam Schiff truly believe he knows something more than Mueller? That 40 FBI agents, 19 attorneys, 2,800 subpoenas, 500 witnesses, looking into 13 different countries and saying no collusion at all? He needs to resign from the committee.
Why do Republicans feel so emboldened right now to go after Adam Schiff?
Well, I mean, look, Adam Schiff has been a thorn in the side of the president for quite a while now, and so it's pretty clear that he's the president's top target. But I also think, you have Schiff out there essentially saying he still believes there's collusion after we got, Barr's assessment of Mueller's findings, saying there's not an indication that there was actually collusion or coordination between Donald Trump and his associates with the Russians. Now, I think you're hitting the loggerhead of a political question versus a legal question. Bill Barr drew a legal conclusion from, what the special counsel gave him, and the special counsel drew a legal conclusion. But what we have Schiff out there saying is, look, he still behaved unethically. That's not the same as collusion legally, but I think that's enough to spark the ire of Republicans, and clearly we've seen many calling for his resignation today.
Chris Lizza, how do you see it?
Sarah's exactly right. I think that this is a political maneuver. Kevin McCarthy calling for Adam Schiff to resign from the Intelligence Committee is not going to make Adam Schiff resign from the Intelligence Committee. Nancy Pelosi said he should resign. That's another thing. In fact, it's likely to embolden Democrats to rally behind Adam Schiff. So I think we are now in where we always knew we would be at some point in the Mueller report, after the Mueller report was finished. I'm not going to say came out because it hasn't come out yet, but we've gotten to it faster than I thought we would, which is just the political back and forth, right? At this point, Donald Trump, from the Sunday afternoon until now, no collusion, no fully exonerated. And again, there's, like many things he says, there are elements of the truth. It's the Stephen Colbert truthiness thing. There are elements of the truth in there, but it's not the whole truth. And so what you're seeing, I think, really is just this fight over 2020. We've written stories, other people have written stories about how the Trump campaign is already weaponizing the Mueller report, trying to raise money off of it, trying to make it look as though the media was wrong all along. I always point people back to this: 199 charges filed against 34 people and 3 entities. That's not nothing. Now, that doesn't mean Donald Trump colluded with the Russians. But the idea that this was all a big hoax and a witch hunt, tell that to Rick Gates, Paul Manafort, Mike Flynn, Michael Cohen, George Papadopoulos. It's not. Just because it didn't bring down the president of the United States doesn't mean it wasn't a credible investigation, launched, by the way, by Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, a Trump appointee.
That's correct. Now, Kevin McCarthy, Sabrina, and the other Republican members of the House Intelligence Committee, they want Schiff to resign as chairman of the committee. The president goes one big step further. He tweeted this morning, Congressman Adam Schiff, who spent 2 years knowingly and unlawfully lying and leaking, should be forced to resign from Congress. From Congress. He goes one step further.
Well, I think he feels emboldened based on Attorney General William Barr's summary
of the Mueller report. There's no question that Adam Schiff will not resign, neither from his chairmanship of the House Intelligence Committee nor from Congress. I think that Adam Schiff actually came out very forcefully in his defense of his own conduct and the statements he has made. Hey, the point that he made today in public was that while the special counsel report may not have established a criminal conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Moscow, that does not mean that the pattern of contacts that Chris was just pointing out between members of the Trump campaign or associates of the president and the Russian government or individuals with known ties to Russian intelligence were somehow now irrelevant. There are still so many unanswered questions about that 2016 meeting at Trump Tower in New York, about the conversations around a potential Trump Tower Moscow project. Of course, Paul Manafort sharing internal polling data when he was at the helm of the campaign with Konstantin Kilimnik. And so I think that that sort of reinforces the ways in which Democrats are going to continue to push for the full release of the report, because they believe that the special counsel may have made other determinations on aspects of coordination, even if they did not find evidence of collusion.
16 Trump associates. These numbers are important. 16 people associated with Donald Trump had contact with the Russians during the campaign or during the transition. 6 of them lied about it to either Congress or federal investigators. Again, that doesn't mean that Donald Trump colluded with the Russians, but the idea that Donald Trump pushes day in and day out on Twitter that this is nothing, it's a witch hunt, this can never happen again. What can never happen again? An investigation that led to a number of guilty pleas with people for a variety of crimes?
But Joey, let's not forget, we've only seen a 4-page summary of what is maybe a 300 or even longer Mueller report. There could still be a whole lot of very embarrassing, damaging information involving the President of the United States. Are Republicans potentially getting ahead of themselves?
Yes, they are, Wolf. And yes, I would go one step further. Not that there could be damaging information. There is damaging information. And let me explain. I don't say that as a partisan. I say that as an objective evaluator of what we know. And what do we know? We know that there is no exoneration, right? There could be no collusion, no diversion, no whatever the branding the president says, but it explicitly says that he is not exonerated. So if someone's not exonerated, to me, that means that there's damning information there that could certainly hold him accountable, and that's certainly problematic.
Everybody stick around. There's more news we're following. We'll do that right after a quick break.
Anna, do you have those plans?
Yes. I just wanted to show you something I've been working. James R. & Associates, Anna speaking.
Bad timing for a break. YouTube viewers, I'm gonna keep recording the news for you, but keep in mind I may not be done showing you Daniel 11 and 12 before they return from commercials. So please keep that in mind. Now shoot. Read my last text from Mom.
Daniel 11. Also, I, in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I, stood to confirm and to strengthen him. And now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the 4th shall be far richer than they all. And by his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia. And a mighty king shall stand up, that shall rule with great dominion, and do according to his will. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken, and shall be divided toward the four winds of heaven, and not to his posterity, nor according to his dominion which he ruled. For his kingdom shall be plucked up even for others beside those. And the king of the south shall be strong, and one of his princes, and he shall be strong above him, and have dominion. His dominion shall be a great dominion. And in the end of years they shall join themselves together, for the king's daughter of the south shall come to the king of the north to make an agreement. But she shall not retain the power of the arm, neither shall he stand, nor his arm, but she shall be given up, and they that brought her, and he that begot her, and he that strengthened her in these times. But out of a branch of her roots shall one stand up in his estate, which shall come with an army, and shall enter into the fortress of the king of the north, and shall deal against them, and shall prevail. And shall also carry captives into Egypt their gods, with their princes, and with their precious vessels of silver and of gold, and he shall continue more years than the king of the north. So the king of the south shall come into his kingdom, and shall return into his own land. But his sons shall be stirred up, and shall assemble a multitude of great forces. And one shall certainly come, and overflow, and pass through. Then shall he return, and be stirred up, even to his fortress. And the king of the south shall be moved with choler, and shall come forth and fight with him, even with the king of the north. And he shall set forth a great multitude, but the multitude shall be given into his hand. And when he hath taken away the multitude, his heart shall be lifted up, and he shall cast down many 10,000s, but he shall not be strengthened by it. But the king of the north shall return, and shall set forth a multitude greater than the former, and shall certainly come after certain years with a great army and with much riches. And in those times there shall many stand up against the king of the south. Also the robbers of thy people shall exalt themselves to establish the vision, but they shall fall. So the king of the north shall come, and cast up a mount, and take the most fenced cities, and the arms of the south shall not withstand, neither his chosen people, neither shall there be any strength to withstand. But he that cometh against him shall do according to his own will, and none shall stand before him. And he shall stand in the glorious land, which by his hand shall be consumed. He shall also set his face to enter with the strength of his whole kingdom, and upright ones with him. Thus shall he do. And he shall give him the daughter of women, corrupting her. But she shall not stand on his side, neither before him. After this shall he turn his face unto the isles, and shall take many. But a prince for his own behalf shall cause the reproach offered by him to cease. Without his own reproach he shall cause it to turn upon him. Then he shall turn his face toward the fort of his own land. But he shall stumble and fall and not be found. Then shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes in the glory of the kingdom. But within few days he shall be destroyed, neither in anger nor in battle. And in his estate shall stand up a vile person, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably, and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. And with the arms of a flood shall they be overflown from before him, and shall be broken, yea, also the prince of the covenant. And after the league made with him he shall work deceitfully. For he shall come up, and shall become strong with a small people. He shall enter peaceably, even upon the fattest places of the province. And he shall do that which his fathers have not done, nor his fathers' fathers. He shall scatter among them the prey, and spoil, and riches, yea, and he shall forecast his devices against the strongholds, even for a time. And he shall stir up his power, and his courage against the king of the south with a great army. And the king of the south shall be stirred up to battle with a very great and mighty army. But he shall not stand, for they shall forecast devices against him. Yea, they that feed of the portion of his meat shall destroy him, and his army shall overflow, and many shall fall down slain. And both these kings' hearts shall be to do mischief, and they shall speak lies at one table, but it shall not prosper, for yet the end shall be at the time appointed. Then shall he return into his land with great riches, and his heart shall be against the holy covenant. And he shall do exploits, and return to his own land. At the time appointed he shall return, and come toward the south. But it shall not be as the former, or as the latter. For the ships of Shittim shall come against him. Therefore he shall be grieved, and return, and have indignation against the holy covenant. So shall he do. He shall even return and have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant. And arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries. But the people that do know their God shall be strong, and do exploits. And they that understand among the people shall instruct many, yet they shall fall by the sword, and by flame, by captivity, and by spoil many days. Now when they shall fall, they shall be helped with a little help. But many shall cleave to them with flatteries, and some of them of understanding shall fall, to try them, and to purge, and to make them white even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. And the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself, and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished, for that is determined shall be done. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any god, for he shall magnify himself above all. But in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, and a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver, and with precious stones and pleasant things. Thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory, and he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain. At the time of the end shall the king of the south push at him, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots, and with horsemen, and with many ships. And he shall enter into the countries, and shall overflow and pass over. He shall enter also into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown. But these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom and Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon. He shall stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. But he shall have power over the treasures of gold and of silver, and over all the precious things of Egypt, and the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his steps. But tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. Therefore he shall go forth with great fury to destroy, and utterly to make away many. And he shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas in the glorious holy mountain. Yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. Daniel 12. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars for ever and ever. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words, and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. Then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, there stood other two, the one on this side of the bank of the river, and the other on that side of the bank of the river. And one said to the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, How long shall it be to the end of these wonders? And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand, and his left hand unto heaven, and swear by him that liveth for ever, that it shall be for a time, times, and an half. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. And I heard, but I understood not. Then said I, O my Lord, what shall be the end of these things? And he said, Go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed to the time of the end. Many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days. Blessed is he that waiteth, and cometh to the 1,330 days. But go thou thy way till the end be, for thou shalt rest, and stand in thy lot at the end of the days. The Book of Hosea.
There were other topics that were being discussed, and my view is that the sole focus of that trip should have been on Puerto Rico.
But he was distracted by North Korea when he was there.
He was talking about a whole host of other issues, but I would rather leave those conversations internal.
Do you deny that that happened?
I don't confirm or deny. I'd rather keep those things internally, but again, the focus should be on Puerto Rico.
Now, Rossello was in Washington today to lobby Congress for disaster relief money for Puerto Rico, as the island is still waiting tens of billions of dollars in funds to rebuild the island. This week, we're told, Rossello's aides went to the White House to appeal for a meeting between the president and the governor. Those aides tell us top White House officials, including trade advisor Peter Navarro, threatened them to stop their complaining, adding the governor is, quote, effing things up. That is in the words of aides to Governor Rossello. Now, when asked about that, Governor Rossello told us his team will not be bullied, and here's what he had to say about that. Does it feel that way sometimes? That you're dealing with a bully?
If the bully gets close, I'll punch the bully in the mouth.
Just like that?
Just like that. I don't. It would be a mistake to confuse courtesy with courage.
Now, the president told Republican senators earlier this week behind closed doors that Puerto Rico is wasting disaster relief money. Rossello says that is not the case and that people in Puerto Rico believe they've been treated as second-class citizens. Wolf.
As you know, the president earlier, just a little while ago, he pushed back hard. He's touting the billions of dollars in aid he claims is for Puerto Rico, saying he's given more money to Puerto Rico than either Florida or Texas.
That's right, Wolf, and that is not the case. Puerto Rico has only received a fraction of the billions of dollars that they need to rebuild the island, fraction of the money that has been authorized and appropriated by Congress. And the president, you're right, was just asked about some of the governor's comments earlier today. Mr. Trump insisted to reporters that he's done more for Puerto Rico than anybody else. Here's what he had to say.
Puerto Rico has been taken care of better by Donald Trump than by any living human being. And I think the people of Puerto Rico understand it. But you do have a mayor of San Juan that frankly doesn't know what she's doing. And the governor, they got to spend the money wisely. They don't know how to spend the money, and they're not spending it wisely.
Now, Puerto Rican leaders say that is simply not the case. Wolf, Rossello believes the only solution to give all of this basically the kind of care that is needed down in Puerto Rico is for that island to have statehood. So they have been fighting for this up on Capitol Hill, started that fight today. They believe they need to have that power up in Congress, where right now their representatives have almost no political power. Wolf.
All right, Jim Acosta at the White House, thanks for that report. Coming up, the breaking news as Democrats demand to see the full Mueller report. A congressional source says the primary obstacle is the presence of grand jury information. Will the Attorney General allow lawmakers to see that material?
You still stressed about buying our first house, sweetie?
Yeah, I thought doing some hibachi grilling would help take my mind off it all.
Maybe you could relieve some stress by calling Geico for help with our homeowner's insurance.
Geico helps with homeowners insurance?
They sure do. And they could save us a bundle of money, too.
I'm calling Geico right now. Cell phone. It's ringing.
Get to know Geico and see how much you could save on homeowners and condo insurance.
Every day at Marco's, get 2 medium, 1-topping pizzas for just $6.99 each. Because it takes 2 to make a great everyday value. Every store, every day, the Italian way. Hello, Primo.
The big drug companies don't see us as people. They see us as profits. We're paying the highest prescription drug prices in the world so they can make billions? Americans shouldn't have to choose between buying medication and buying food for our families. It's time for someone to look out for us. Congress, stop the greed. Cut drug prices now.
Yeah, we're going to need 500 more units pronto.
We don't have that kind of money right now, Carl.
You will in 10 minutes. That's how long it will take you to get funding through Cabbage. I know. I'm 10 minutes in the future spokes guy.
What's happening?
And I'm 10 days in the future spokes guy. That Cabbage funding helped you win the Gundelfinger account. Congratulations.
What's a Gundelfinger?
And I'm from 10 years in the future.
Cabbage. Business funding in as little as 10 minutes.
What'd I miss?
Want to take your next vacation to new heights? TripAdvisor now lets you book over 100,000 tours, attractions, and experiences in destinations around the world, like New York. From bus tours to breathtaking adventures, TripAdvisor makes it easy to find and book amazing things to do. And you can cancel most bookings up to 24 hours in advance for a full refund, so you can make your next trip monumental. Read reviews, check hotel prices, book things to do. TripAdvisor.
I want it all, and I want it now.
With the Grubhub delivery app, if you want it all, you can get it all. Grubhub, restaurants you love, delivered.
Okay, here's the deal. Remodeling your home used to be a long-term goal, but your kids grew up way too fast. And sharing a bathroom with teenagers? Wake up, Dad. You needed that new bathroom yesterday, and don't have another 45 days to wait while the bank approves your loan. It's okay. Dial 833-449-CASH, and you can speak with a cash-out mortgage specialist who will personally try to help you close your new loan in under 20 days. That's 833-449-CASH. Make the cash call today.
From time to time, you hear people say, we get our clients too much money. Do they really deserve $1 million after a car wreck? Hundreds of thousands for back pain after an injury? Here's how we think about it. How much would you pay not to have lightning bolts shoot down your leg every day, forever? How much would you pay to be able to golf again, to dance again, to lift your child in the air? I know what my number is. And our
Bush years, Sundays at 10 on CNN.
Happening now, breaking news, court order. As Democrats fight to see the entire Mueller report, they're asking the Attorney General to remove a primary obstacle. Will a judge agree to release grand jury testimony? calls to resign. The House Intelligence Committee chairman under fire as President Trump tries to turn the tables on his investigators. Democrat Adam Schiff and Republicans on his important committee, they are now in open warfare. Trump's net worth. A new report documents Mr. Trump's efforts to convince lenders and investors that he's richer than he really is. Was it stretching the truth or outright fraud? And Smollett payback. The city of Chicago is sending the Empire actor a six-figure bill for the cost of his investigation. The president says the feds are reviewing the decision to drop the charges against Jesse Smollett. Mr. Trump is weighing in on the case again tonight. We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world. I'm Wolf Blitzer. You're in the Situation Room.
This is CNN Breaking News.
We're following breaking news on the fight by Democrats to see all of the Mueller report. CNN has learned that the House Judiciary Committee chairman has asked the Attorney General to get a court order to release confidential information from the Mueller grand jury. That would remove a primary obstacle to accessing the special counsel's full and extensive report. CNN has learned it's more than 300 pages long. Tonight, President Trump says he hasn't seen the report yet, but he's touting its what he calls its beautiful conclusion based on the Attorney General's 4-page summary. At the same time, Mr. Trump is focusing his lingering rage over the Russia probe on one of the top Democrats still investigating him, the president, demanding that House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff resign, not just from the committee, but from Congress. This hour, I'll talk with Senate Judiciary Committee member Chris Coons, and our correspondents and analysts are also standing by. First, let's go to our White House correspondent, Abby Phillip. Abby, the president is heading to a rally in Michigan right now. We heard him just a little while ago before he left the White House.
That's right, Wolf. President Trump left the White House a few minutes ago, seeming to be in a combative mood. He is both celebrating the Mueller report that he says vindicates him, but he's also going on the attack. Tonight, ahead of his first campaign rally following the release of Attorney General Bill Barr's letter to Congress summarizing the Mueller report, President Trump previewing his message to his supporters.
Well, look, I've been going through that for almost 2 years, but it's really much more than that, because if you look back, you could probably look at the insurance policy area in terms of timing. It's a disgrace what happened. This was a terrible thing that was put onto our country. Nobody's seen anything like this, probably never happened before. Beautiful conclusion. I haven't seen the report. Beautiful conclusion. And there was no collusion at all. There never was. Everybody knew it. I wish it could have gone in 1 week instead of taking almost 2 years. But the result was great. No obstruction, no collusion, no anything.
All this as President Trump joins 9 members of the House Intelligence Committee demanding the committee chairman, Adam Schiff, resign as chairman in the wake of the Barr letter.
Well, Schiff is a bad guy because he knew he was lying. He's not a dummy, and he knew he was lying.
Republicans accusing Schiff of pushing a narrative of collusion that they say has been disproven by Mueller.
The findings of the special counsel conclusively refute your past and present assertions and have exposed you as having abused your position.
Chairman Schiff firing back in a heated exchange.
My colleagues may think it's okay that the Russians offered dirt on the Democratic candidate for president as part of what was described as the Russian government's effort to help the Trump campaign. You might think that's okay, but I don't think it's okay. I think it's immoral. I think it's unethical. I think it's unpatriotic. And yes, I think it's corrupt and evidence of collusion.
Barr's letter quotes the Mueller report saying the investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in its election interference activities. All this after the president tweeted today, Congressman Adam Schiff, who spent 2 years knowingly and unlawfully lying and leaking, should be forced to resign from Congress.
Good morning, everyone.
But in the face of all this, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi was unmoved.
I'm so proud of the work of Chairman Adam Schiff, in stark contrast to the irresponsible, almost criminal behavior of the previous chair of the committee. So what is the president afraid of? Is he afraid of the truth? I think they're just scaredy cats. They just don't know what to do.
Meantime, Attorney General Bill Barr has refused to give House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jerry Nadler assurances that he will release the full Mueller report, which sources say is more than 300 pages long. Pelosi had this to say about that.
How can I just say this more clearly? Show us the report.
The dramatic escalation comes as President Trump and his allies seek to turn the tables on the investigators.
We can never allow these treasonous acts to happen to another president. This was an attempted takeover of our government, of our country, an illegal takeover.
After claiming he was completely and totally exonerated by Mueller, Trump is now accusing Schiff of unspecified crimes.
He knew it was a lie, and therefore, in one way, you could say it's a crime what he did, because he was making horrible statements that he knew were false. He should be forced out of office. He is a disgrace to our country.
While it's still not clear what exactly President Trump will actually do to address these, what he's calling treasonous acts that prompted this investigation, it's worth noting that he's heading to Michigan this afternoon with two of his outside advisors, David Bossie and Corey Lewandowski, who have urged him to investigate the investigators. Wolf.
Abby Phillip at the White House, thank you. Let's go to Capitol Hill right now, where Democrats are trying to remove a primary obstacle to getting full access to the Mueller report. Our senior congressional correspondent, Manu Raju, has that breaking story for us. Manu, what are you learning?
Yeah, Democratic staffer who had knowledge of the call between House Judiciary Chairman and Bill Barr that happened Wednesday night over what's happening with the Mueller report says that a primary obstacle to getting the Mueller report is the presence of grand jury information. Now, this source said that Nadler and Barr discussed the prospect of obtaining a court order in order to get this information. Now, Barr, according to the source, did not commit, was open to the argument, but did not commit, not enough for Jerry Nadler. And Democrats are open to the notion of going to court themselves and demanding this information. Now, also on that same call, Democrats did not come away with a clear understanding of how the administration plans to get around the executive privilege issue if the White House tries to move to block any information from going forward, although Barr said he had no plans to give the information to the White House first. And also, Barr did not give any indication of why Bob Mueller did not make a decision about whether or not to charge the president with obstruction of justice. That's a decision, of course, that he left up to the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General, and according to this source, that Barr did not answer the question when asked by Nadler. Wolf.
Interesting. Meanwhile, the House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff, he's fighting back very hard after President Trump and Republicans in Congress called on him to resign. What's the latest on that front?
An explosive hearing today, Wolf, at the House Intelligence Committee after Adam Schiff faced calls from Republicans to resign in the aftermath of him saying that he still believes there was collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians, despite what Bob Mueller apparently found regarding when Mueller did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government. But Adam Schiff made clear he was not going to take the Republican punches lying down.
Your willingness to continue to promote a demonstrably false narrative is alarming. The findings of the special counsel conclusively refute your past and present assertions and have exposed you as having abused your position to knowingly promote false information, having damaged the integrity of this committee and undermined the faith in the United States government and its institutions. We have no faith in your ability to discharge your duties in a manner consistent with your constitutional responsibility and urge your immediate resignation as chairman of the committee.
My colleagues may think it's okay that the Russians offered dirt on the Democratic candidate for president as part of what was described as the Russian government's effort to help the Trump campaign. You might think that's okay, but I don't think it's okay. I think it's immoral. I think it's unethical. I think it's unpatriotic. And yes, I think it's corrupt and evidence of collusion. And the day we do think that's okay is the day we will look back and say that is the day America lost its way. Your opening statement. I will not yield. Mr. Ambassador,
you gentlemen yield because you just made some things about all of us that I think we all should get the opportunity to respond to. If you're going to say we think, you ought to allow us to speak of what we think.
You can use your 5 minutes to speak. You attacked me in your opening statement, and
I have not had an opportunity to respond at all, especially to your statements of what we think, because no one over here thinks that.
Wolf, also today in the Senate Intelligence Committee had an unexpected visitor. That's Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law and senior advisor, interviewed by senators on the committee after he was interviewed by staff of that same committee back in 2017. So at least that committee at the moment operating on a bipartisan basis, unlike what we saw today at the House Intelligence Committee.
Well, more collegiality in the Senate Intelligence Committee, certainly than the House Intelligence Committee, where it's all-out warfare right now. Manu Raju, thank you very much. Now to questions about the president's personal finances and business practices. The Washington Post reports that President Trump repeatedly inflated his net worth to lenders and investors based on a review of some unusual documents spanning multiple years. Investigators are studying those documents right now to determine if the exaggeration amounted to fraud. CNN's Kara Scannell is here in the Situation Room to tell us more about this report. What are you learning?
That's right, Wolf. So this all stems from Michael Cohen's testimony on Capitol Hill. When he was there, he had alleged that Donald Trump had inflated his net worth and some documents that he gave to banks. And at the time, Cohen had just one sheet of paper for each year. Now we've got 20 pages that he has supplied. And through them, you know, there's a lot of gray areas in accounting, but the Washington Post dug into this and found some pretty black and white areas. Specifically in 2011, they identified that in this financial document, that Donald Trump said that the Trump Tower in New York City was 68 stories. The Washington Post found that it's actually 58 stories. The Trump National Golf Course in Los Angeles, in this financial document, it says that as of June 30th, 2011, there were 55 homes for sale. In reality, according to the Washington Post, there were only 31 homes for sale. And in Trump's statement of financial condition from 2012, they reference a vineyard that Donald Trump owns. They said it was 2,000 acres in Charlottesville, Virginia. The Washington Post found, citing public records, that the vineyard is about 1,200 acres long. And then the summary of Trump's net worth in 2013, out of nowhere appears this item that he's got $4 billion in brand value that has never been referenced in any of the prior documents that we've seen from 2011, 2012. So it raises a lot of questions now, Wolf, about where Donald Trump was getting these numbers from and what information is contained in here, which Michael Cohen says has gone to banks.
Could these financial claims now be subject to some sort of new audit?
Well, you know, it's interesting. It's something that the House Oversight Committee is interested in. They've asked the auditing firm to provide 10 years of documents about communications that they've had with Donald Trump and the Trump Organization. But in the report itself, the accounting firm raises a number of red flags. They say that, you know, this has not been audited, that these numbers come from Donald Trump. It's not numbers that they've devised. They also say there were a number of departures from regular accounting rules. And because of the significance and pervasiveness of those departures from accounting rules, they say that users of this financial statement should recognize that they might reach different conclusions about the financial condition of Donald J. Trump if they had access to a revised statement of financial condition. So essentially saying you might come up with a different valuation if you had underlying documents to support this, which the auditors don't. The auditors declined to comment, citing their client confidentiality, and the Trump Organization has also declined to comment.
All right, we'll continue to monitor this story as well. Kara, thank you very much. Kara Scannell reporting. Joining us now, Senator Chris Coons. He's a Democrat. He serves on both the Judiciary and the Foreign Relations Committees. Senator, thanks so much for joining us. As you know, the Attorney General, Bill Barr, he briefed the chairman of your Senate Judiciary Committee, Senator Lindsey Graham, on the Mueller report before he briefed the House Judiciary Committee Chairman, Jerry Nadler. One's a Republican, the other one's a Democrat. Do you believe that was appropriate?
Well, what I think is most appropriate, Wolf, is that we get access to the full Mueller report as soon as possible. Press accounts that suggest it's 300 pages reinforce my concern about the Attorney General having provided us with just a 4-page summary, having provided a preview, as you just suggested, to the Republican chairman of the Judiciary Committee in the Senate before briefing anyone else in Senate leadership. And frankly, my main concern about Attorney General Mueller when he was nominated was the unsolicited 18-page memo that he had submitted to senior White House officials, Department of Justice officials, making an argument against obstruction of justice, making an argument that Robert Mueller's likely theory of obstruction of justice was ungrounded, unfounded. So I'm concerned about Attorney General Mueller's independence in terms of his view of the arguments made to him by Robert Mueller on obstruction. I frankly, though, Wolf, also think we in the Senate need to move forward and need to deal with some of the other issues on the table, like health care. President Trump announcing this week that he's directing the Department of Justice under Attorney General Barr's leadership to change position and now actively try to sink what's left of the Affordable Care Act through legal action.
And we'll get to that. But very quickly, is Congress entitled to see the grand jury material in the Mueller report?
You know, typically that is not something that's released. It requires a court order for grand jury material to be released. I think we should first see the entire body of the Mueller report and then reach our own conclusions about whether there is strong enough evidence that we should then pursue a court order to release the grand jury materials further to the members of the Judiciary Committee and through us ultimately to the public.
The president says the report reached what he described as a beautiful conclusion. Those are the words of the president. So why has the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, blocked efforts to release the full report, allow a formal roll call on the floor of the Senate?
That's a great question. I'm not sure what he's hiding, but it should concern all of us, particularly given that both President Trump himself and the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Republican Lindsey Graham, both were saying last week that this report should be fully released. I don't see any reason other than his concern about what might ultimately be in the 300-page Mueller report for why Majority Leader McConnell is blocking its release on the floor of the Senate.
At what point would you be willing to support a subpoena to get the entire report and if necessary, the underlying documents?
I think if we don't have this report, a clear pathway towards getting the full report by the end of the month, we should proceed with a subpoena. Obviously, in the Republican-controlled Senate, we're not likely to see a subpoena. It would be coming from the House Democratic majority on the House Judiciary Committee.
What do you think of that exchange that the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee had? We're talking about Adam Schiff with the Republican minority members of the committee, because it's getting wild, and the president tweeting this morning that Schiff should simply resign from Congress.
You know, it's a pretty striking exchange, Wolf. At the end of the day, I think what Chairman Schiff has done during the time where he was serving as the ranking member on House Intelligence was in the best interest of the country, making sure that the Mueller investigation was able to begin and proceed, investigate, and reach its conclusions without interference, without interruption, I think was in the best interest of the rule of law. Let me be clear. I do think it is a good thing that Robert Mueller ultimately concluded our president did not explicitly conspire with a hostile foreign power to influence the outcome of the 2016 election. But President Trump keeps saying he's fully exonerated, he's completely cleared. The Mueller report did not say that either. It did not reach a conclusion that exonerates him of obstruction. And it's important to keep in mind that several senior figures in the Trump campaign and the Trump team have pled guilty or been convicted of significant crimes. If there was nothing going on, it's really striking how many of the most senior folks on the Trump campaign team were having meetings with Russians and then lying about their meetings with Russians. I still think there is unfinished work to do here in terms of making sure we understand what happened so that we can secure our 2020 elections and making sure that in the interest of transparency, the public gets the full Mueller report.
Well, let's see what's in the Mueller report on that issue. On the issue of health care, which you obviously want to raise right now, the president says his administration will succeed in striking down Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. He says he's created a group of your Republican Senate colleagues to come up with a replacement health care plan. Now, what's your reaction to that?
They've had 9 years to come up with a replacement plan. One of the reasons that Senator John McCain ultimately voted against repealing the Affordable Care Act on the floor of the Senate was the absence of any credible replacement plan. Just, forgive me for speaking for him. That was my conclusion from his comments on the floor just before that significant vote. The absence of any credible plan means that what the president is threatening to do is to remove pre-existing condition protections that currently prevent 120 million Americans who have pre-existing conditions ranging from asthma and Alzheimer's to diabetes and pregnancy from being exposed to the way that health insurance worked before the Affordable Care Act. The vast majority of Americans get their health insurance through their employer. The Affordable Care Act made big advances in giving people access to health insurance who don't get it through their employer. But there's about 150 million Americans, Wolf, who get their insurance through their employer, and where before the Affordable Care Act, Those of us who have pre-existing conditions, and that's a very sizable number of Americans, were at risk of discovering when we most needed our health insurance, it wasn't there to protect us. This was a central issue in the 2018 elections, and I'm really struck that President Trump is putting his own party's reputation at risk. He should be working with us to reduce the cost of prescription drugs, to make health insurance more accessible and more affordable, rather than in court trying to throw more chaos into the health insurance markets by invalidating what's left of the Affordable Care Act, these critical protections.
Senator Coons, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Wolf.
Just ahead, Chicago officials now want the actor Jussie Smollett to reimburse the city with $130,000 as President Trump calls the case an absolute embarrassment to the country.
With all that USAA offers, why go with any?
Dad.
What do you want to say?
Just letting you know, I am still recording the news because I also showed Daniel 11 and 12 in this video, and I was still recording the Bible when they came back from commercials at times, so I'm still recording some, but I can talk, but I will reply between segments and during commercials if you want to talk.
Here's your message. Ready to send it?
Review.
Your message to Dad says, just letting you know I am still recording the news because I also showed Daniel 11 and 12 in this video, and I was still recording the Bible when they came back from commercials at times, so I'm still recording some, but I can talk, but I will reply between segments and during commercials if you want to talk.
No, I shouldn't have put it that way. Text Dad.
What do you want to say?
Just letting you know I'm still recording, but feel free to text. I will reply during commercials.
Here's your message. Ready to send it?
Review.
Your message to Dad says, just letting you know I'm still recording, but feel free to text. I will reply during commercials. Okay, it's sent.
Read less text.
I found your most recent message from Dad. Okay, have you used any mouthwash yet? Would you like to reply?
Text Dad.
What do you want to say?
Not today, but yesterday.
Here's your message. Ready to send it?
Review.
Your message to Dad says not to give up yesterday. Okay, it's sent.
talk to your rheumatologist.
We're covering multiple breaking stories, including new efforts by the House Judiciary Committee chairman to get full access to the Mueller report. We've learned that Congressman Jerry Nadler has asked the Attorney General William Barr to get a court order that would allow the release of sensitive and confidential information from the Mueller grand jury. Let's bring in our analysts and our experts to discuss. David Chalian, Jerry Nadler, the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, he's obviously upset to learn that Bill Barr, the Attorney General, actually briefed the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Lindsey Graham, a Republican, before he briefed him. How contentious is this entire process getting?
Well, I mean, I think it's been pretty contentious, and I think it shows promise to continue to be so. Here's what it seems to me. The Democrats are settling in on where they think their safe political space is post-Donald Trump being cleared, according to Barr's description of the Mueller report, on collusion, and by Barr and Rosenstein on obstruction in that letter. It seems that the Democrats are keenly aware, I think as we all are, overwhelmingly, Wolf, the public wants this report released. Democrats, Republicans, independents, polls have shown that for months. So this is a very safe political space to be in. And even though the president may have had a political victory over the weekend, this is where the Democrats think they have the strongest ground to stand and fight on.
You know, Laura Jarrett, you're over at the Justice Department right now. Tell us what you're learning about the Mueller report.
Well, Wolf, we now know that it runs over 300 pages, which up until a couple of days ago, even that one detail was shrouded in secrecy. I have to tell you, just getting that page length, that page count, was like pulling teeth out of the Justice Department. An official confirmed it today. A second source confirmed to my colleague, Jeremy Herb, that the report is somewhere between 300 and 400 pages if you don't include exhibits. So it's clearly lengthy. And as you already mentioned, Barr has signaled to Nadler the sticking point here is the grand jury material. We know a small team is scrubbing it. But the real issue, I wonder, is whether Nadler is going to be willing to push this. If it drags on, will he subpoena for it? Will he try to get Mueller up to Capitol Hill? They've been sort of going through an incremental approach right now, but you have to think at some point they're going to have to, really call the question on this.
Some publishers are already thinking about getting that 300-page report and publishing it maybe in paperback down the road. You know, David Swerdlick, the president says the House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff, and the president has really gone after him in big ways over these past several months, should be forced, in the president's words, to resign from Congress. Republicans on the committee, they're also really angry at him. Watch the House Minority Leader, Kevin McCarthy.
Does America truly believe, or does Adam Schiff truly believe he knows something more than Mueller? That 40 FBI agents, 19 attorneys, 2,800 subpoenas, 500 witnesses, looking into 13 different countries and saying no collusion at all? He needs to resign from the committee.
So the chairman, Adam Schiff, he's responding big time.
Right, and I think Chairman Schiff has good grounds to respond big time. There you saw Majority Leader McCarthy asking kind of the wrong question. Chairman Schiff has said before and said today in committee that lowercase c collusion is still his position, even if the Mueller report and the Barr summary don't find a criminal conspiracy. He listed off the Trump Tower Moscow dates from Michael Cohen's testimony, the Trump Tower meeting in summer of 2016, Paul Manafort. He talked about some of the other things that have been reported out, whether or not we actually have this report, and sort of re-upped his position. Even in today's partisan environment, it's pretty stark the way Republicans came after him today, and I think he concluded that the only way to respond was to fight fire with fire.
By the way, the president is now just arrived in Grand Rapids, Michigan. He's getting ready to go to a rally, a big rally there. We'll be hearing from him at that rally. We'll see what he has to say. I don't think anybody should be surprised. He's on the offensive right now, going after the Democrats, going after the entire Mueller investigation. We'll watch that closely. Jackie Alamedi, our new CNN poll asked this question: what should Congress do with the Mueller report findings? 57% said hold hearings, 43% said end the investigation. Looks like there's some majority support for Adam Schiff to continue to hold hearings and continue the investigation.
That's exactly right. And what we've seen come out of these public hearings has actually been really fruitful for these investigations. And we've seen, impartial, apolitical investigators move forward, whether that's launching investigations into bank fraud in New York or insurance fraud on the Hill. I think that the more and more these tidbits that are rolling out about the way that Attorney General Barr has handled the proceedings since Mueller filed his report and doing things like briefing Senator Graham before he briefed, Chairman Jerry Nadler. That politicizes this even further and undercuts the whole purpose of why special counsel, was created to begin with. And so I think the more that happens, the more the public is going to be clamoring for a public hearing to hear things for themselves, to hear Mueller and Barr testify themselves and talk about their findings.
And we're going to have a lot more to discuss on this. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, you're about to hear the President of the United States reversing what his Education Secretary, Betsy DeVos, had to say about federal funding for the Special Olympics.
The crispy and Cajun fish.
Out a 4-page summary of that. The special counsel said there was no evidence of collusion, but left open the question of obstruction. The attorney general says no on obstruction, but Democrats are demanding the full 300 pages. Republicans want a top Democrat ousted from his post. Here's Ed O'Keefe.
I don't think it's okay.
Democrat Adam Schiff strongly defended himself today against Republican calls for his resignation as chair of the House Intelligence Committee.
My colleagues may think it's okay that the Russians offered dirt on the Democratic candidate for president as part of what was described as the Russian government's effort to help the Trump campaign. You might think that's okay.
He continues to insist that President Trump and his campaign committed wrongdoing during the 2016 election.
I think it's immoral. I think it's unethical. I think it's unpatriotic. And yes, I think it's corrupt.
That puts him at odds with Attorney General William Barr's summary of the Mueller report and made him the target of the president's ire.
He should be forced out of office. He is a disgrace to our country.
In a letter, Republicans on the intelligence panel said that Schiff's actions, both past and present, are incompatible with his role as head of the committee.
We have no faith in your ability to discharge your duties in a manner consistent with your constitutional responsibility and urge your immediate resignation.
Schiff is a television fixture, calling out the president's alleged misdeeds regularly on daytime and late-night shows and in more than 34 Sunday morning political talk show appearances in the last 2 years.
All Americans should be concerned with the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee taking the position of judge and jury.
The normally camera-friendly Schiff said little on Thursday.
What do you make of the president calling you a disgrace, calling for you to resign?
It's nothing new from this president.
But House Speaker Nancy Pelosi defended him.
I'm so proud of the work of Chairman Adam Schiff. And what is the president afraid of? Is he afraid of the truth?
Meanwhile, the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, was back up here today for meetings behind closed doors with the Senate Intelligence Committee. It's a reminder that despite the hope of the president and Democrats to move on to other issues, the investigating continues.
Ed, thank you very much. You are looking now at lines of people waiting to get into President Trump's rally in Grand Rapids, Michigan. As he left the White House, the president told reporters he is backing off his administration's plan to eliminate federal funding for the Special Olympics. That is after the Education Secretary spent days defending the cuts. More on this from Major Garrett.
I've been to the Special Olympics. I think it's incredible, and I just authorized a funding.
After days of controversy and criticism from both Democrats and Republicans, the president announced an about-face.
I heard about it this morning. I have overridden my people. We're funding the Special Olympics.
His decision came hours after Education Secretary Betsy DeVos faced another harsh grilling on Capitol Hill.
Whoever came up with that idea at OMB gets a Special Olympic gold medal for insensitivity.
You know, I love Special Olympics myself. I have given a portion of my salary to Special Olympics. Let's not use disabled children in a twisted way for your political narrative. That is just disgusting and it's shameful.
Well,
And
Madam
I think
Secretary, let me tell you what, eliminating $18 million out of an $70 or $80 billion budget, I think is shameful too.
DeVos had noted that the organization receives most of its funding from private donations and therefore did not need $18 million from the government. After the president's announcement, DeVos said in a statement she had fought for the funding, quote, behind the scenes over the last several years. Tim Shriver is the Special Olympics chairman.
The federal government invests in education. It ought to invest in education that works. Special Olympics is education that works.
Twice before, the Republican-led Congress ignored the president's efforts to scrap Special Olympics funding. Now Democrats run the House, and a presidential campaign is underway. This presidential budget seeks a 12% cut, $8.5 billion in education funding, meaning the scrutiny may have just begun. Jeff?
Major Garrett, thank you. Thousands of travelers were stranded today at airports from Detroit to Tel Aviv when the bargain airline WOW shut down without any warning. Here's Chris Van Cleef.
WOW Air left stranded customers saying, whoa, as the airline abruptly canceled flights and shut down Thursday, leaving about 4,000 travelers stuck mid-trip. Many frustrated and posting on social media about chaos at the airport. In Baltimore, police were even called to the gate.
First, canceling one flight, then canceling the next one, then canceling their airline. It's definitely seemed chaotic.
Colby College senior Max Steiner is trying to get home from spring break in Copenhagen.
What does really suck is having to spend the multi-$100 ticket to get home after this, and I would assume that there's no way I'm getting any sort of refund.
Portland, Oregon resident Mary Sapp is stuck in Berlin.
I feel frantic and my shoulders are tight.
Iceland-based WOW Air had 11 planes connecting 4 U.S. airports to nearly 20 vacation destinations, mostly in Europe. It flew about 3.5 million passengers last year. Despite saying it ceased operations, WOW's website still shows super cheap fares like Boston to London for $140. Prices so good, the airline couldn't make a profit. In recent months, WOW, which had 1,000 employees, tried to merge with Iceland Air and find additional funding, but the money ran out today.
It's the old story, Chris, that if it's too good to be true, it is too good to be true.
George Hobicka, who founded airfarewatchdog.com, says flyers will be lucky to get any money back.
The place to start, if you want your money back, is your credit card company.
Iceland Air, United, and Aer Lingus are among the airlines offering so-called rescue fares for stranded WOW flyers. Those are discounted flights, but people will still have to buy them. Here at BWI, this is pretty much the last sign we could find for WOW Air. The rest were taken down, replaced by notices saying the airline has shut down. Jeff?
Surprised you found that. All right, Chris Van Cleef, thank you very much. At the federal courthouse in Boston today, a guilty plea in that college admissions scandal.
Do you want to talk about more in the connection to more?
Rudy Meredith, the former coach of the Yale women's soccer team, pushed through a crowd of reporters after he admitted to taking bribes to help students get into the school. The investigators say Meredith was secretly recorded asking for a $450,000 bribe. They say this led them to the ringleader of a $25 million nationwide scheme. This evening, a mother from South Carolina is calling for justice after her daughter, a 5th grader, died from injuries she suffered in a classroom fight. The other student has been suspended from the school. Nikki Batiste has more on this.
Happy birthday to you. 10-year-old Renaya Wright will never celebrate another birthday. The 5th grader died 2 days after a classroom fight on Monday that left her with serious injuries at Forest Hills Elementary School in South Carolina. A police report stated Wright was found unconscious but breathing at the school, and she was rushed to the hospital. Her mother, Ash Wright, posted this picture on Facebook from her daughter's hospital room. This is what bullying causes. Still unresponsive at this time, keep the prayers coming.
Due to the ongoing investigation and the student privacy laws, we cannot share specific details at this time.
Today, the school board's chairman addressed a room full of parents demanding answers, but released few details about what exactly happened, which has left some of the community outraged.
We're enraged. We're upset and we're enraged.
We need answers. The community, we need closure. This is not the first incident of bullying.
The Colleton County School District says the other student, also a fifth grader, has been suspended, but no charges have been filed. And Jeff, there is a vigil for Renaya tonight.
Plenty of questions remain here. Nikki, thank you. President Trump has asked the Justice Department to look into the Jussie Smollett case, calling it, quote, an embarrassment to our nation. The Chicago police are planning to send the actor a bill for more than $100,000 to cover the cost of investigating what they say turned out to be a publicity stunt. Here's Dean Reynolds.
Actor Jussie Smollett flew to California late Wednesday, but outrage trailed him to Hollywood.
Anything you want to say to your fans, Jussie?
Despite what he and his defense team claim is his innocence,
he was a victim, and he's been villainized. And it's really very unfortunate.
It's now reported producers of the Fox show Empire may well make his 2-episode suspension permanent.
Sources tell us it's looking increasingly likely that he will not be coming back.
Smollett said he was the victim of a bigoted attack here in January, only to be accused weeks later by police and prosecutors of staging the assault to boost his fame and pad his wallet. Yet those same prosecutors abruptly dropped their case on Tuesday. Then a judge sealed the record, but not the questions. Why, if Smollett is innocent, did he forfeit his $10,000 bond and perform community service this past weekend? Why did Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx claim his deal was not unusual, but then sent her office scrambling yesterday to find other precedents? Nobody is in trouble, read an email to her assistants. We are just looking for further examples of how we as prosecutors use our discretion in a way that restores the victim but causes minimal harm to the defendant. Mayor Rahm Emanuel defines minimal harm as having Smollett compensate the city for the $130,000 in overtime pay it had to shell out during its investigation of him.
Given that he doesn't feel any sense of contrition and remorse, my recommendation is when he writes the check, in the memo section, he can put the word, I'm accountable for the hoax.
But Smollett's team said today it is the mayor and the police chief who owe Smollett an apology for, quote, dragging an innocent man's character through the mud. Jussie has paid enough, unquote. Jeff?
Dean Reynolds, thank you very much. Up next here on the CBS Evening News, an emotional interview, one of R. Kelly's accusers telling her story for the first time. And later, she is living with HIV and through a groundbreaking surgery, also sharing the gift of life.
Hey guys, if you're experiencing erectile dysfunction, you can now get treated anywhere. Like here, 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 even here. Not see if you just mock.
I'm calling Geico right now.
Of 3 other women led to the singer's arrest last month. But Lanita Carter's story had not been told until today. Carter tells Jerika Duncan she used to braid Kelly's hair for more than a year until he forced himself on her. Here is some of Jerika's interview, a warning some of Carter's story is graphic and disturbing.
February 18, 2003, I get a phone call to come down and do his hair. When he came to the room and he asked me for that head massage, and I told him I didn't do massages, I laughed it off. And I didn't know he was for real. If I could change that day, I wouldn't have been there. He pulled my braid down by him, and he said, "Suck it for daddy, suck it for daddy." And I said, no, and I did like this, and he just started going. He did like six times. I'm not dressed no type of way. I look at myself in the mirror like I'm not a beauty queen. I didn't perceive myself to be nothing more than just his hair braider. And I just kept thinking to myself, like, why did this happen to me?
You called the police the day that this happened?
The exact day. They asked for my clothing. And I gave them my favorite Tommy Hilfiger shirt. And that's where they found DNA evidence.
DNA evidence from R. Kelly on your shirt?
Semen.
Did you see the interview that R. Kelly did with Gayle King in which he denied ever sexually assaulting a woman, ever sexually assaulting anyone underage?
Yes, I saw it.
What did you think when you were watching that?
Felt like it should be a crime to publicly tell a story, that he able to get on television and lie.
Well, Kelly's defense attorney, Steve Greenberg, says these allegations were fully investigated and a decision was made not to bring any charges.
It's really tough to hear Lena's story. Do we know why there were no charges?
That's a great question. We tried to get answers to that, Jeff. And basically, because Carter is now a part of this open case against R. Kelly, the state attorney's office said that it would not comment on that case as well as the one from 2003. It's also important to note that Carter entered into 2 settlements with R. Kelly that were supposed to remain confidential, those settlements totaling $750,000.
2 settlements?
Correct, 2.
Okay. Jerika, thank you. Still ahead here tonight, she gave a fellow HIV patient her kidney and many others hope.
When you can't watch the evening news on TV, don't worry. We've got you covered. Subscribe to our podcast, sponsored by Liberty Mutual.
The presiding judge responding, the county does not physically destroy case documents. And then this twist.
Based on what defense counsel represented to us outside of court, that Mr. Smollett will not be filing a petition for expungement. But
Smollett's attorneys confirm they are not going to file to expunge his case. A case that has now gotten the attention of President Trump.
I think that case is an absolute embarrassment to our country, and somebody has to at least take a very good, hard look at it.
This morning, the president suddenly announced a federal review of Smollett's case via Twitter, saying FBI and DOJ to review the outrageous Jussie Smollett case in Chicago. It is an embarrassment to our nation. So far, the FBI nor Department of Justice has said whether they will look into the case. Smollett's attorney is maintaining the case was handled properly.
We have nothing to be concerned about because there was nothing on our end to request this, to do anything improper, and to my knowledge, nothing improper was done.
State's Attorney Kim Foxx, who is also facing scrutiny for her decision to recuse herself from the case, has defended her office's decision, but said the sealing of the entire case was a mistake she was trying to rectify.
We did not advocate, do not believe that the court's files should be sealed. We believe in transparency, even on difficult situations. We'll answer the questions. We did not ask for that file to be sealed.
So let's unseal it.
I believe that's in the process now.
But tonight, CNN has learned that Fox's office will not be able to unseal the charges. Her office spokesman telling CNN, in accordance with state law, all information contained in Smollett's criminal case court file, including police records, has been sealed by order of the circuit court. The Cook County State's Attorney's Office has no authority to unseal court records. By the way, if Smollett's camp asks for his case to be expunged, it would mean that the court record would have to be unsealed. So by not asking for an expungement, it means that court record remains closed and out of the public view. Wolf?
With the latest, Sarah Seidner in Chicago, thank you very much. Just ahead, we're getting new details about a mysterious raid at a North Korean embassy as Kim Jong-un's enemies claim responsibility.
Fact is, every insurance company hopes you drive safe.
HIV, the virus and medications used to treat it can damage the kidneys. But that didn't stop Martinez from donating one of her kidneys, which is healthy, to an anonymous recipient, a stranger. Errol Barnett has more on a groundbreaking surgery.
Nina Martinez was brimming with pride before Monday's surgery at Johns Hopkins Medicine in Baltimore.
World famous.
Martinez became the first living donor with HIV to give her kidney to an HIV-positive recipient.
I'm the best-looking living kidney donor with HIV the country has ever seen. I mean, I feel really good about that statement.
Following a 2013 law allowing people with HIV to become donors, 116 HIV-positive patients have received kidneys and livers from deceased donors with HIV. This week's breakthrough involving a living donor expands the potential organ donor pool for HIV-positive patients. That could help free up organs for anyone waiting for a kidney. Dr. Derry Segev says a recent study shows patients who have their HIV under control are at low risk for kidney disease, allowing them to donate.
Looking at Nina redefines what HIV looks like in 2019. HIV is not a fatal disease.
Martinez says she first wanted to donate her kidney to a friend with HIV. He died last fall before she completed screening.
I still attribute my donation to him because had he not asked for a kidney, I would not have given one.
So in some way, he has and you have still been able to make a difference.
Correct.
Martinez tells me she plans to run the Marine Corps Marathon this year, her second marathon, but her first with just one kidney. Errol Barnett, CBS News, Baltimore.
Up next here tonight, an ex-manager goes to bat for a group that is increasingly rare, African-American ball players.
This portion of this
leasing deals.
So you can come out.
CNN, the most trusted name in news.
More breaking news now on the fate of some U.S. residents in China. Let's go to our senior diplomatic correspondent, Michelle Kaczynski. She's over at the State Department. What are you learning, Michelle?
Hi, Wolf. Official sources are telling us that they believe multiple Americans are being held in these large-scale Chinese detainment camps. I asked, are there many? And they said no, a few. And when I pressed, are these American citizens? They didn't want to give too many details because they said at this time there are privacy concerns. They said at the very least they have legal status in the United States. So the U.S. believes that China has been operating in secret, now not so secret, these large-scale camps, and they've been cracking down on ethnic minorities, especially in the last year. The U.S. believes they could be holding up to 2 million people in these camps, mostly Uyghur Muslims, but there are other groups as well. In fact, today, the State Department's ambassador for international religious freedom, Sam Brownback, detailed one as of yet unconfirmed case that he just heard of a man who has legal status in the U.S. He's 75 years old. He has a son in California. He recently went over to China in this province, Xinjiang province, where they have these camps, and he has not been heard from since. So it's hard to confirm these cases because Brownback says he's raised this issue multiple times with the Chinese. They have admitted to the existence of camps, but they insist that they are vocational training facilities. Wolf?
Sounds pretty awful to me. All right, Michelle Kaczynski, the State Department, thank you. Also tonight, a new claim of responsibility for a brazen raid on an important diplomatic outpost for Kim Jong-un. A shadowy group seeking to topple the North Korean dictator says it's behind the embassy break-in. Brian Todd has been looking into this for us. Brian, this raid has been shrouded in secrecy. What are you learning?
Wolf, we have new information tonight on the tactics this group used to get into the embassy and on some crucial intelligence that they may have stolen in the raid. Now, this group, Chalima Civil Defense, acknowledges that they carried out the operation, but they dispute the accounts of Spanish authorities who say they got violent. A mysterious group of Kim Jong-un's enemies is tonight claiming responsibility for a daring, broad daylight raid at one of Kim's most important embassies. The group, calling itself Chalima Civil Defense, says it carried out the operation last month at North Korea's embassy in Madrid. Spanish authorities say 10 people gained entry to the embassy by posing as businessmen, tied up the staff, and beat them.
YouTube viewers, I may not be in here when this news program ends, so once the news goes off, once the news ends, feel free to stop watching. Then the video will be done, but I may not get back in here before this news program ends. Thank you. Please like, share, and subscribe, and keep in mind, the main reason I was recording the news in the first place is to show you how soon Jesus could come and to show you how soon we Christians could leave this earth. Thank you.
For our people, we rise up.
Their stated goal is to overthrow the regime and bring in human rights and other freedom to North Korea.
A former top North Korean embassy official in London who defected says the raid could have netted decryption computers that the regime uses to communicate with its embassies around the world. Veteran spies say, given the operations North Korea runs out of its embassies, those decryption computers could be a treasure trove for Western intelligence agencies.
They're running drugs, all sorts of black market stuff. They're running agents in the Korean community. And, getting the names of those agents and figuring out what they're doing against the exiles, Korean exiles, would be a counterintelligence breakthrough.
Tonight, Chalima Civil Defense says it's suspending its operations because its members have been exposed. Analysts believe their lives are in danger.
Kim regime can retaliate in various ways. They could try to kidnap them. They could try to assassinate, kill them. They could also try to ruin their reputation by doing some sort of smear campaign.
Both Spanish authorities and the Chalima Civil Defense Group itself say the group shared information on the raid with the FBI, and Chalima says it did that at the FBI's request. The FBI is not commenting on the case. We reached out to U.S. intelligence and got no comment from them. A State Department spokesman says no U.S. government agency had any involvement whatsoever in this raid. Wolf?
Sounds like there's a lot more information, Brian, that we're working on to get on this rather mysterious development. Brian Todd reporting for us. Thank you very much. And to our viewers, thanks very much for watching. I'm Wolf Blitzer in the Situation Room. You can always follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Wolf Blitzer, Twitter and Instagram at